and we are back with another Q&A from the Super Short Showcase, which we have showed on Friday morning at the newly soon-to-be Lumiere Cinema. Do me a favour and let's bounce down the line and tell everybody what movie you were part of and what you did on it.
Si te empiezas con tu nombre.
Bueno, lo primero dar las gracias a Carly que me va a traducir. Yo soy Nathanael Cardona y soy el director de La Bestia.
Thank you to me for translating. He's Nathanael Cardona, and his one is The Beast, or La Bestia in Spanish.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I was a line producer and briefly a cast member of Spots.
Hi, I'm George, and I was the writer, director, and editor of Spots.
Hi, I'm Jack Berry, and I'm the director, cinematographer, and editor of Sleep Talking, which was the final one we played.
All quite intense shots, to be honest, these three. Can you tell me a little bit about where the initial idea came from and why you wanted to make these movies in particular? Yep,
so with Sleep Talking, I knew I wanted to make something that was going to be quite an easy shoot, quite easy to do on a low budget. I'm involved in this company called Independent Horror Society. We have a Discord chat for pro members, and basically I just put in the chat, does anyone have any 3-minute scripts? And a few people submitted, including Peter, who's here today. Peter's dead. He sent several scripts, and I just thought which one's going to be the most sort of doable on a super low budget. And Sleep Talking just seemed perfect because it's just a single room, basically just one scene. And also it struck me as being quite relatable because my girlfriend does sleep talk, and it can be really freaky. So I thought it would be a good way to kind of channel some of my own experiences into a horror short as well.
So my inspiration came from kind of a similar place. This was my first short film, so it was trying to keep it simple, try and keep it kind of basic. We had one room, not much dialogue, and it was trying to make something that we could do well, easily. And I've been watching quite a lot of body horror. Obviously, The Substance came out recently, which was great, and I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole into some Cronenberg and stuff. So body horror ended up being the direction we went in.
I didn't come up with the idea, so I can't speak to that process, but I remember the first time I read the script, it's just a really visceral image, just those spots appearing on his face. It's so gross. And I've watched a decent amount of body horror, and I'm a horror fan, but I showed my mum the short film, and she was covering her face oh no. When the razor came out, she was kind of squealing, and I thought that was a good litmus test for how strong of an idea it was and how gross of an image it is.
Bueno, la idea de nuestro cortometraje era básicamente porque queríamos hablar de las verdaderas bestias, que en este caso es el ser humano, y ser conscientes de que muchos de nosotros tenemos nuestras propias bestias dentro, que muchos sabemos controlarlas y otros no.
The idea came from, we wanted to talk about the real beast, the beast that as people we have inside of us, and that's something that some people are able to control and other people aren't.
When it comes to creating the suspense and tension and fear of kind of a horror style movie, what's your approach to making sure you strike that balance?
Cuando estás creando tensión en la película, ¿cuál es tu manera de hacerlo, de crear esa tensión que tienes y el miedo?
Yo creo que es directamente mi forma de pensar, que simplemente me dejo llevar y ya está, me dejo llevar.
It is my way of thinking, so it's just a case of I let it flow.
I think that the structure of this just works so well because you have a certain number of spots and then cut away, and there's more and more and more, and so it just builds and builds, and the tension mounts, and the situation starts to get more and more extreme. And I think that's a really effective part of the short, that pacing and that building of tension.
Yeah, I think horror's like comedy in quite a lot of ways, especially in that kind of tension way. You build the tension with the joke and then you release it with the punchline. And that's what I found through the editing process, trying to find where that beat needs to hit for it to be the most effective. But it really is kind of an emotional thing. You kind of feel it. You feel it. You don't understand it, I guess.
I think for ours, because we knew that it was going to end on such a big jump scare, like a big, loud sound effect, we actually kind of stripped back on the horror in the first half. Like one of the earlier drafts of the score, there was like more kind of horror movie music in that sort of first minute of it. But we decided to just strip all of that away, so there's like no score for the first minute, so it's just very, because it's very slow, and it's like the characters are just sort of half asleep, there's not a lot of dialogue in it. I suppose we wanted it to feel as close to the experience of just that kind of liminal, 3 a.m. experience, and hopefully the fact that the first half is so slow and quiet, then that kind of second half feels like it kind of comes from nowhere.
And I imagine when you're creating that, it can be almost a little bit draining as well, especially when you're making a movie, which is no easy thing to do. Was there anything maybe quite fun that you remember when filming on set? Was there any little happy accidents that you remember happening?
Well, I think that the actors quite enjoyed the shoot because they were just in bed the whole time. And there was long stretches where for takes, like Kieran, for example, the male lead, his only direction was to just, you're asleep in this scene. So he absolutely loved that. In terms of happy accidents, actually, the clock that we had was brought in last minute. I think our sound person just brought in like some clocks that we could potentially use to stick there, because we knew that we wanted a shot to show what time it was. And that clock that she brought in, there was no sort of chat about what kind of clock it was going to be, but it gave off so much light, and it kind of, it really saved us, because otherwise the shot itself could have just been almost pitch black, but the light kind of served to bounce a bit of light off the especially Kieran's face, and as a way to kind of explain why there was light, because otherwise it would have just been like a pitch black shot.
So I think for us, shooting in a bathroom was like a big challenge, because there's so many reflective surfaces that you can be seen in, and especially if you want to fit a boom operator in that room as well, it's a struggle. So it kind of limits the amount of shots we're able to do, but I think that in a way that kind of simplified our shoot and made it easier, and a lot of those shots are actually quite effective in the end, so it was kind of a lucky accident there.
Yeah, I had photos of the boom operator AD, and I think it was Cam or something,
Yeah.
just huddled in the corner of the bathroom, like all packed into one tiny space, trying to make sure they weren't in frame. But it was a really nice shoot to work on, because like I said, the structure of adding more makeup after each section, after each new section of spots generating, meant that we got quite a few kind of breaks.
Yeah.
It was quite nice to chat to people on set and get to know everyone a bit better. So it was a really, really enjoyable set to be on.
Sé que creemos la película cansa mucho. ¿Hay algunos momentos divertidos desde que disfrutaste cuando estabas rodeando?
Con este cortometraje realmente no se disfrutó nada. Fue un rodaje donde no paraba de llover, baterías rotas, focos rotos, tuvimos que iluminar con un móvil. Pero por suerte todo salió muy bien y quedamos muy muy contentos con el resultado.
So on the set there weren't any moments to enjoy because it wouldn't stop raining. Batteries broke, lights broke, we had to illuminate with a phone. But ultimately we are very happy with how it did turn out.
One question I always like to ask is that any director can tell me what's wrong with a movie when they see it up on the screen. I like to flip that a little bit usually and ask for a positive, but I'm going to retcon it a little bit today. And basically, when you see the movie up on the screen with an audience, what's your favourite reaction that you've had from your movie?
Cuando muchos directores saben lo bien y lo mal de esta película, pero cuando tú la estás viendo con una audiencia, ¿cuál es la mejor reacción que has visto de la audiencia cuando lo estás viendo?
La audiencia de nuestro cortometraje siempre ha sido muy, muy positiva, y lo más importante es que siempre entienden el mensaje, y para nosotros eso es fundamental, que el terror está presente, pero sobre todo que se queden con el mensaje que estamos intentando transmitir.
So the audience reaction has always been positive, because the most important thing for us is that they understand the message. There is the terror in the film, but ultimately the message of the film is fundamental, and knowing that they understood that is the most important part.
Just to speak a bit on how good the makeup is, I had photos of Luke, the lead actor, with the spots on his face, and then with the moisturizer covering his face, and I would like show it to my friends, and they go, oh, and I'd try to kind of jump scare them with it. I'd be like, oh, look at this on Instagram, and then show it to them, and they'd turn their heads and go like that. I mean, that's the best reaction you can have with the body horror, right? People wincing and squealing and freaking out, I think is always a positive.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's the having people kind of almost unable to watch is kind of what you're trying to do with the body horror, and I think we got there. I also quite like the ending. I like a bit of a laugh there. It's always gratifying.
I quite like when everyone laughs at any of the early sections of the film, like Kieran's character just kind of like sighing and just trying to get to sleep, and he's sort of comforting his girlfriend. He's trying to be quite like, you know, rugged, sort of gentle, but at the same time you can feel the frustration in his voice. And I like when anyone kind of sniggers or giggles at that, because it means that they're kind of, I don't know, they're at a comfort level with those characters that will, you know, be undone.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yep, go for it.
What was the budget of the film?
So mine, other than sort of equipment costs, and most of the equipment I sort of had anyway, we basically didn't spend much. I'd say maybe about £100 or something like that in total. But it was a complete micro budget, but basically no budget.
I'll pass over to Tommy for this, because I was kind of outside of the budget conversation.
Yeah, so this was, I'm one of the committee members for the Filmmaking Society at the University of Birmingham, and we don't really have budgets. We have bits of equipment that we use, like the film department at the university has given us boom mics and stuff like that. So we've got a kind of guerrilla setup that we can use. I think the majority of the budget went to like buying a giant pot of Vaseline for the special effects makeup, which is still like sitting in my room somewhere, and that's kind of
lubricated.
Yeah, exactly. So that was where most of the budget went. But yeah, it's very, very little budget.
Muy barato, 100 libras.
It was very low budget, so around £100, very little.
Anyone else? If money wasn't... Oh, sorry, go for it.
I got a question for Sport. I like the makeup, and I was quite horrified when he tried to put up that razor blade of his. Was it hard to do the makeup?
So we had someone who did the makeup who had never done it before, and so it was a bit of trial and error really. But she was, sorry.
Well, good job to her.
Yeah. She was like a natural. She was amazing. And watching her do that was so cool. Like just watching them be built up, and you start with like a lump of Vaseline on the face, and then she put some kind of liquid latex over the top and did the makeup to paint the like white heads on, and it was just like, it didn't get less gross seeing the process behind it, but I have no idea how to do makeup, so I couldn't really advise, I guess. Don't know if you...
Yeah, I just want to say like thanks to Rowan and Tommy for Rowan and Luke, sorry, because they sat facing each other for like about an hour for that last session, and just prodded each other. Got prodded in the face for about an hour, and yeah, he was very okay with that, which was great.
Just talked about budget a little bit there, but if money wasn't an option, who would be your ideal cast, and would you stay in the horror genre, or would you move on to another genre?
The thing recently, I've really liked working with Willem Dafoe. I feel like that man can do anything.
Oh yeah.
In terms of changing genre, I mean, I do like all kinds of genres. Like, I love, I actually quite like rom-coms. So maybe I'd do a rom-com with Willem Dafoe.
Oh wow. I'd watch that. I mean, The Lighthouse.
I really love Emma Stone, so I think I'd probably want to cast her immediately. I'm not sure what genre. Maybe I'd go musical, bit of Damien Chazelle stuff. Yeah.
I would replace me with Jeff Goldblum, and I would shift the genre to a comedy by just adding Seinfeld music at the end, and that would be the only two changes I'd make, because otherwise it's bad.
Si tuvieras todo el dinero del mundo, ¿hay un actor con quien querías trabajar y seguirías estando en el género de terror o cambiarías?
Pues no lo sé. Yo supongo que seguiría siempre haciendo terror y suspense, que es lo que siempre me ha gustado. Y si tuviese la oportunidad de trabajar con actores que admiro, pues claro que lo haría. Aunque también seguiría contando con los actores con los que cuento actualmente.
So I would say I'd stay within the horror and suspense genre because that's what I've always enjoyed. And if I had the opportunity to work with any actor, it'd be great, but I think I would still stay with the actors that I currently count on.
Love that. And I did promise Carrie that I wasn't going to do this, but it's the last question and I'm feeling free. Down the line again, it's the puppet question. If you could make a movie with just puppets, what genre would it be?
Si pudieras crear una película con marionetas, ¿qué género será?
Terror también.
Yeah, horror.
Horror.
Also, I think horror, body horror, like
Body horror.
Muppet style, Gonzo, just slowly getting into more brutal and gruesome stunts. See how much we can mess a puppet up. That would be fun.
Yeah, I think the kind of horror musicals in this block were amazing, so I'd love to have a go at something like that. It looked like a lot of fun.
It'd be really interesting to do like some kind of like, you know, hard-hitting like political thriller or something like that, but like a really sincere tone that just happens to have a cast of puppets. I love like the Muppets movies where there's like a human actor that's just like Michael Caine in the Muppets Christmas Carol, and he's just giving like a proper, like genuine, sort of sincere performance. Can we have like one human actor in it?
Of course we can. It's your movie.
Yeah, but I've probably put Michael Caine in it, you know, just giving like a very sincere performance, but everyone else is puppet.
So coming soon, Tinker Tailor Soldier Puppet. Right guys, thank you so much for giving us your shorts and letting us show them up on screen today. Thank you for sitting down and doing this with me. I hope it wasn't too hard. And can we get a round of applause, please?